So you're thinking about buying a business or starting a business for whatever reason you have, right? You are tired of your job, you're tired of making ends meet, don't want to sit in traffic anymore, you want to spend more time with your wife or husband and kids. Whatever that is, let's just talk about that a little bit and why buying a business has a lot of advantages over starting a business and why I prefer to buy online businesses versus more traditional brick and mortar businesses, such as a laundromat or something similar to that. So acquisition advantages, why buy a business versus build one? So when you buy a business, you already have a product or service with demand. You don't have to go figure out what to sell or what service to provide. It's already out there. There's a huge menu of businesses available to you at any given time. Just go out there and pick one you like. You already have a team of employees. You don't have to go figure out who to hire, what employees you need, if they're going to be good employees, how to do interviews, reading resumes. All this stuff is already done for you when you buy a business. And they already perform their job well, or else they probably wouldn't be in the business anymore. You already have marketing that works. So, one of the most important parts about a business, especially today in the world of digital media, is marketing and trying to figure out, what marketing works best for your business. Is it more profitable to run Google ads, to run Facebook marketing, TikTok, cold email, phone calls, sales team, whatever it is? None of that you have to experiment with. Somebody's already put in all of that time and pain to figure out the best process for the existing business. You already have customers who purchase from you. Using that marketing to go find business customers or consumer customers, all that is already done. You already have an ideal customer persona. You already know who buys the product or service. You don't have to figure any of that out. And you already have a brand that customers recognize. You don't have to go build your logos and develop a brand and have brand awareness. All of this stuff already exists. And then the best part about it is you get training by an expert of the business included in the purchase price of the business. So somebody spent 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years building this business. Can you imagine the expertise they've developed over, a decade of running experiments through hiring and marketing and product and all these different aspects of a business? You get to have all of that expertise handed over to you during the training process for no additional cost. And then if you want the owner to stay involved afterwards, a lot of times they're more than willing to do that, as an employee or a consulting basis or whatever you can negotiate with that seller. So it's an amazing opportunity to buy a business. I guess I thought this was the best one. The business already makes money, and so do you from day one. Many businesses never hit profitability. And if they do, sometimes it takes 6 months or a year or 2 years, right? I mean, there's companies on the public, New York Stock Exchange that are still not, driving profits. So, being able to put a little bit of money down on an acquisition and make profit the very next day is just amazing. And then let's go through some additional reasons, right? So you can buy your dream salary with just 5% of the purchase price. We have an absolutely amazing opportunity in the United States called the SBA loan program, where with as little as 5 to 10% down, you can acquire a business, which is, there's no other program like that anywhere else in the world. Canada has some lenders that will, do something similar, but, by far, America's opportunity is 1,000 times bigger than any other countries. Reason number 2, startups have a failure rate of 65 and as high as 95%, according to some sources. Online companies are much easier to start. Anybody can go start a Shopify or Amazon account and try to list a product and sell it. So there's almost no barrier to entry today. So it's much easier to start, but it's much easier to fail because you may not have the expertise to build a company. So at least 65% startup failure rate. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics say that approximately 45% of all new businesses fail during the first 5 years, and then 65 by year 10. But I don't think that, that's some historical numbers. I don't think that's really factoring in a lot of small online businesses. So in my experience, it's probably much higher than that if you include online businesses, just because, again, they're so easy to start. So a 12-year-old can start it in his bedroom, but it doesn't mean it's going to last. Only 9% of all businesses grow to more than $1 million in profits. But yet you can go find hundreds and hundreds of businesses for sale at any given moment that are making more than $1 million. And you can buy that with 5% down. The SBA tracks their charge-off rate, and this is an approximate. I use this sort of as an approximation to failure rate of SBA acquisitions. So this was over a time period from 2010 to 2020. They're not super up to date with government statistics, but on this one, you can see the charge-off rate. They basically said they don't think they're going to get any money back for the loan they lent out, and the highest one here is retail products and services with a just above a 5% failure rate, and real estate at a 2% failure rate. So pretty safe acquisition that, as compared to starting a company where you have at least a 65% failure rate. It looks like here, according to the SBA, that you have something like a 95% success rate. Number 4, you want immediate profits, and we briefly mentioned this in an earlier slide here. But you get instant cash flow from day one, with just a very small amount of money down. Number 5 is buying a successful business allows you to learn from an expert. It was one of the topics we mentioned in the original slide. You get expertise included. It's a built-in mentorship, right? And you want to arrange as long of a training period as possible with the seller. You want to include as much mentoring as you possibly can. Start off by asking for 90 days, maybe even longer, depending on your relationship with the seller. I've seen some deals include 6 months of training and consulting for free, or more sometimes, depending on the size of the business. But get as much as you can. If you're looking at buying a business versus having a job, this is a quick little chart I made from another lecture. But if you just assume that there was a 5% annual growth rate of both the job and the business, it would be relatively the same until year 10 when you paid off the business, and then you could generate. You don't have a bank loan to pay after year 10 because SBA loans are amortized over 10 years, so you got to pay the business loan back over 10 years to the SBA, and then after that you don't have that bank loan anymore, so all of that bank loan money is now profit in your pocket as well. So after year 10, your profits jump up considerably, and then if you want to sell the business, you can create a huge cash flow for you and your family at the end. Whereas if you have a job, there is nothing to sell at the end of the day. And what job gives you a 5% increase in salary every single year consistently? Most don't, but many businesses grow at 5% or more per year. And then there's obvious tax advantages, right? You can save a lot of tax burden by owning a business versus having a job. There are expense deductions. A lot of business owners run business expenses or somewhat personal expenses through their business, right? Your home office can be written off as a business expense. Some of your travel and vacations and restaurants and things like that. A lot of business owners tend to push the limit on that too. So not advising anything on that side, but your expenses are definitely deducted from your business, and you don't have to pay taxes on that. There's depreciation and amortization, where you can depreciate any assets or amortize intangible assets such as goodwill or trademarks, customer lists over time, which also reduces your tax burden. You can have probably higher amounts of retirement contributions like the SEP IRA or solo 401ks. There's income structuring. You typically, as a business owner, you'll pay yourself a salary as an employee of the business, like operate like a CEO or manager, but then the rest of the profits of the business are just given out as distributions, and those are taxed at a lower rate than the payroll. So of the vast majority of your profits in the business are taxed at a lower rate than if you were working a job, which of course is great for business owners. It's how they make more money than people having jobs. So there's lots of ways that have buying a business or owning a business are beneficial monetary wise over having a job. So if your business did, as an example, $500,000 in profits, you might be able to deduct $100,000 in expenses and retirement contributions, etc. And instead of being taxed at a $500,000 salary, you're taxed at $400,000 of profits, and maybe only 100 of that is at a salary and 300 is at business profits. You also build equity for future acquisitions. You can leverage your business to build an empire. You now have something of value that you can use to leverage further acquisitions or growth or whatever it is you want to do, whatever your goals are in life with your business. There's cross-selling and other synergies. Owning multiple businesses allows you to create synergies such as cross-selling products to shared customer bases, where you can consolidate operations to reduce costs and expenses. Investors are attracted to other business owners. It's much easier to attract investors or get loans from investors if you're a current business owner, especially with a very successful business. People are much more open to investing with you, lending you money, being a partner if you already have experience running and operating a successful business. It's much easier than if you have a job. You get to be your own boss. There's a lot of control and flexibility in owning your own business. You get to build a legacy, you create something lasting. You could hand it down to your children and grandchildren if that's what you want to do. Your employees if that's what you want to do. There's personal and professional growth. You develop high value skills. You get to learn how to be a leader. A lot of leadership and marketing, and there's a lot of roles that you learn when owning a business that you don't get experience with working a job typically. And then you can control your own destiny, right? There's always some risk in anything, any path you choose in life. If you work what you think is a stable career, maybe there's downsizing, maybe you get fired, maybe you get replaced by AI, who knows? But at least if you own your own business, you get to be the decision maker, right? There's a definitely more responsibility, definitely more control in your own business. And then there's lots of business networks and just so many more opportunities as a business owner. And if you're looking at a business, why choose an online business over brick and mortar business? Well, you have flexibility of location. You're not tied down to any one location where you have to maybe drive to every day or occasionally. You can travel, you can live somewhere else. It doesn't matter, right? I spent 9 months in Asia last year with my wife and 2 kids, and I own American-based online companies. Online companies are much more scalable than local businesses. If you owned a laundromat or a restaurant, your clientele is going to be limited to a few miles of that location, typically for a large majority of those customers. But if you sell something online, you can sell that product anywhere in the state, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, just with a few clicks of a button. Services, things like that. You're not limited by regional location, so they're super scalable. You don't have to go find 50 more locations for laundromats in 50 other states. Think about the time and effort and money it would take to do that. Flying to every state or flying to 50 other cities to open up additional locations. You automatically sell in every state in the country when you have an online business. There's lower overhead costs. There's no buildings. There's no equipment. There's no automobiles. None of that stuff exists with online businesses. Your biggest expense is typically marketing, which all businesses, typically have marketing expenses anyways. Much more resilient and adaptable. You get to see instantaneous feedback through, electronic metrics of your business, your customer count, your organic traffic, your paid traffic, your conversion rates, your average order values, all these metrics that business owners use, mostly online businesses, because brick and mortar businesses just don't easily have access to this stuff. All this stuff gives you instantaneous feedback so you can, adapt to any market environments. Which leads me into the data-driven decision making as well. It's basically related there. And then, online businesses are much more automated and passive. My first online business was an Amazon business, and I started off, it took a little bit of work for the first few weeks while I identified products and uploaded products and built the listings. But after that, I would simply order products from my vendors, manufacturers, and ship it directly to the Amazon warehousing. And I'd never touched the inventory. I didn't have customer service. I would answer a couple of customer service calls a week, but Amazon stored the product. They handled the returns. They handled the customer service, and they took 20%. I believe at the time it was 18% or something like that, 25% of the sales. But it's, you would pay that anyways to an employee team or a warehouse and buying a building and all these other expenses. So, the online space is it's come so far, and it's so passive and automated these days that it's, a lot of traditional business people just don't believe it. It sounds too good to be true. But I can tell you, I ran a multiple 7-figure Amazon business while going to med school full time and raising a family and owning 2 other e-commerce companies. So, I couldn't have done that with, owning any other type of business. So just a quick, comparison of the brick and mortar business, but we covered all these things already here. And then, just a few examples of attractive business models. There's software. Software, they say, is eating the world. There's software and SaaS companies. These sell pretty much to anyone in the world, no matter where you are. I mean, some sell, to just, if you're in the US, maybe they just sell to US clients, but some sell international. These have, most of the time, subscription-based revenue. It's, a lot of times you have high recurring revenue. Your customers will renew with you. Maybe 85% of your customers will renew that subscription year after year after year. You don't have to go out and find new customers every single time you have a transaction. That's why software companies have higher valuations, because future cash flow is much more predictable and reliable. Super scalable, right? You're not shipping a product. You're not providing a service. There's no human involvement. You create a product one time, and yes, there's some updates that need to be done, things like that. But generally, it's you create it one time and you sell it 1,000,000 times. Some examples of like very well-known, very large software companies would be Salesforce or Zoom or Slack. These are very traditional software companies. There are some concerns in the software space with AI. AI is definitely making it much easier to produce software, especially if you already have software development skills. Instead of maybe something that would take you 1,000 hours to develop, you might be able to develop it in 50 hours with AI or 100 hours. So I think that the software and SaaS space will probably become more competitive as AI progresses over time. But there's something to be said for sort of having a group of customers that are already paying you, that love the product and love the service, and they just stick with you for a long time. Oftentimes, not everybody really understands how to build software with AI, right? I mean, you'd be surprised how many people I meet that still don't have ChatGPT downloaded on their phone. There are subscription-based e-commerce businesses. I love e-commerce, especially if there's some subscription revenue added to those e-commerce businesses. It gives it a little bit more reliability to the business, like we talked about with the software, right? It's some steady income there. There's a lot of times customer loyalty and long-term value with e-commerce companies. So people find a product they love, they'll buy it over and over and over again. There are huge growth trends. Subscription e-commerce grew by 16% in 2023, according to McKinsey. So the progression and the evolving of e-commerce and online businesses is still growing. And examples of this would be Dollar Shave Club, HelloFresh, things like that. Cybersecurity firms are a big one. I mean, there's obviously always increasing cyber threat worry in our economy and our environment. So cybercrime costs are expected to reach $10.5 trillion by the end of this year, according to Cybersecurity Ventures. That's a ridiculous amount of money, and with that much cybercrime, almost every online company or IT company, tech company is spending some expense money trying to prevent cybercrime. They often have proprietary tech, unique software, or AI solutions these days, and they create competitive moats and attract and retain customers. Once you have a cybersecurity firm, and as long as nothing happens to your business, you tend to just keep that cybersecurity firm. There's telemedicine and digital health platforms. These are growing like crazy, especially since, we experienced COVID. Not as many people want to go sit in a doctor's office around a bunch of other sick people anymore. They don't want to go have a 9 o'clock appointment and not be seen until 10:30. I mean, telemedicine, and it really helps solve some of those issues. And, McKinsey said that usage surged 38 times from pre-COVID levels. I've definitely spoken to several owners of telemedicine or digital health platforms that are looking to sell their companies now. So it's a newer trend, and we're going to start seeing those acquisitions and those divestitures, people selling their companies, coming here pretty soon, I'm sure. Again, recurring revenue, subscription-based revenue and fees. So it's like subscription-based consulting fees, things like that. It's again highly predictable. Lots of proprietary tech and platforms. They have onboarded doctors and nurses and all kinds of people. So it's a very complicated, lengthy process to build one of these things. And once it's built, and once you have clients, and once you have people on there, again, it's sticky. There's dropship e-commerce companies. A lot of people are sort of shy from dropship companies, but they require very low cash to scale these companies because you don't have to constantly buy more and more larger and larger amounts of inventory as your company grows to provide the product to ship to your customers. So you get paid by your customer first on a dropship company, then you order the product from your supplier and they ship it directly to your customer. And believe it or not, there's very large companies that do this that you might not even be aware of, right? I think that Wayfair does a lot of drop shipping. Home Depot does a lot of drop shipping. I've represented businesses that manufacture products and they drop ship their product on behalf of Home Depot or on behalf of Wayfair or something like that. And Temu's a completely drop ship company. That one's gained a lot of popularity in the recent past. But these are huge companies, multi-billion-dollar companies that do drop shipping. So in my opinion, there's always advantages and disadvantages for every type of business model, but there's no reason to eliminate dropship companies completely, because who wouldn't love to own Temu or Wayfair? I mean, those are fantastic multi-billion-dollar companies. Amazon stores, I mentioned my very first online business was an Amazon store. It's super, super streamlined and very easy to operate. One of my favorite business models. Around the COVID time, pre-COVID, the online Amazon aggregators went through a huge boom. They raised billions of dollars to buy Amazon stores and aggregate them into one big holdco. And during COVID, they overpaid for those. Unfortunately, they thought that the trend was going to continue at that pace into the future, and it didn't. And valuations went crazy high, and then now they've come back down to reality, a normal historical level valuation, and you can buy Amazon stores now for normal prices again. Unfortunately, a lot of those aggregators went bust, and the companies they own did too. But from every bust, there's opportunity. These are great for people who don't have a ton of time to run every aspect of a business. Just pay Amazon a fee and let them run 90% of the business for you. There's managed service providers. I mean, there's all kinds of companies. These are like IT companies, cybersecurity, cloud management, networking, software customization. I've seen all kinds of companies in here. I can go on and on about different types of businesses. But the point is that, hosting companies, there's all sorts of online business models out there. And you would be surprised by the variety of things that you might see. Digital marketing agencies is a fantastic business. You have here a marketing agency that provides services to other businesses, right? And businesses have more money to pay you than individuals typically. So you have a very important, valuable service you're providing to other businesses. And typically those marketing agencies will have 20 or 30, 100 different clients. And if that marketing agency went out of business, 50 clients, 50 other businesses would be in real big trouble. It might take them weeks or months to figure out how to do marketing on their own or find a replacement that was as good as that marketing team that knew the business and the product and the service. So, in my experience, digital marketing agencies are one of the best acquisitions out there, especially for first-time buyers who are looking to get into the online space. And then the last thing I'll really mention is that, just because we didn't mention a business type here doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Every day, every week, I'm surprised with the type of business that I encounter that is operated from home. A few weeks ago, I met a woman who built a business for mostly Americans, for people who wanted to move to Rome. And she provided all sorts of services to these people for a fee. And she would help them find real estate, find houses and condos in Rome and Italy to move into. She would help them learn the language. She had Italian lessons through some of her team on there. She offered getting visas into Italy and travel, booking airlines, and vacations to come out and see what different parts of Italy looked like before you made the decision. Like, there were all these aspects that she had included in these services that you could buy, like a nice menu selection of services. And she did millions of dollars a year in revenue from this type of business that she just invented off the top of her head. And I met a guy the other day. Him and his wife built a children's, like a student, K through 12 education program, mostly STEM related, science, tech, and math, science sorts of stuff, engineering, math. And they have a 7-figure business, and the wife was an engineer, and she recorded all these lectures, built these great STEM curriculum, recorded it, and they sell this program for stay at home kids or homeschooled kids that want to stay at home and be educated by their parents in the home. And they did a great job. I mean, this woman didn't His husband and woman, they weren't teachers by trade, but they were highly educated and saw an opening in the market that the curriculum out there wasn't up to par, at least according to them. So they created this great STEM program and recorded them teaching the program, and it did very, very well. So that's just an example of a couple of different businesses that I've seen recently that are a little bit different than your traditional Amazon or e-commerce or marketing agency. But you would be surprised if you get out there and start looking at listings. You'd be amazed at the variety of online businesses that exist out there. There's literally a business for everybody in the world. If you're interested in buying a business or owning a business, I encourage you to go out there, look at the businesses that are available that you can operate remotely. You can work from your home. You don't have to drive into the office every day, and just start perusing the listings. That's the most important part, is that if you want to do something, take action, go out there, start looking at listings, talk to the brokers, get pre-qualified for an acquisition, and go out there and buy something. So, best of luck to you. I hope everybody that's interested goes out and buys a business and becomes a business owner and grows wildly successful. If you need anything at all, I'm here to help. I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.